Okay.
Well, no.
And our meeting is now live, so we can start whenever you're ready.
Good morning. I'm calling to order the regular meeting of the Joint Labor Management Benefits Committee on February 1st, 2024. The time is 9:08. Can we have roll call, please?
Sure. We'll be going in the order of the agenda. So when I call your name, please confirm if you're here. Dana Brown,
Here.
Tony Royster,
Here.
Matt Crawford sitting in for Matt Rudnick,
Here.
Paul Gerard sitting in for Matt Zabo,
Present.
Hetty Santos sitting in for Holly Walcott,
Here.
Shauna Janeway sitting in for Janita Iguala,
Here.
Chad Boggio,
Here.
and Lisa Palombi.
Here. Thank you. We have a quorum. Item number 2, public comments. Do we have any public comment?
If there's anyone who is attending virtually, if you can press *9 on your phone to put yourself in a speaker queue. If you're in the room and like to make a public comment, please bring your speaker card to the front. Seeing none and hearing none.
Very good. No public comment. Moving on to action item, agenda item number 3, the minutes. I'd like to say for the record that on the August 3rd minutes, there's a typo on page 2 under committee report 2331, the consultant contract extension. On the second bullet point, it says it's recommending extending the cognition, should be extending the contract for the record.
I have another correction, I think. For the August minutes, my name is listed with library department, and although I work for the library department, that's not the capacity I tend. I'm here as the AFSCME representative.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, noted.
Thank you. Marlene is entering for the record. Good morning. Good morning. Do we have any other changes to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, so it was moved by Tony and seconded by Lisa.
Yes.
Lovely. Can we get a vote, please?
And just to confirm, it's for both sets of minutes, July and August.
Yes.
Okay. Then we'll go in the same order of the agenda. Dana, your vote.
Yes.
Dana votes aye. Tony, your vote.
Aye.
Tony votes aye. Matt Crawford, your vote.
Aye.
Matt votes aye. Paul Gerard, your vote.
Aye.
Paul votes aye. Petty Santos, your vote.
Aye.
Petty votes aye. Petty votes aye. Shauna, your vote.
Aye.
Shauna votes aye. Marlene, your vote. Or do you want to?
I'll abstain, right?
Okay. Chad, your vote.
Aye.
Chad votes aye. And Lisa, your vote.
Aye.
Lisa votes aye. It's unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, which is a committee report 2407, staffing reimbursements for second quarter of fiscal year 23-24.
Good morning, committee. This is Ted Vasquez, Benefits Analyst in the Employee Benefits Division. Committee Report 2407 is our staffing reimbursement report for second quarter of fiscal year 2023-2024. The report requests that the committee approve reimbursements from the Employee Benefits Trust Fund for Personnel Department salary costs of the 4 positions serving the LA Well program and the 2 positions serving the Live Well program. Attachment A of the report provides the calculation of these costs, and the LA Well program's total reimbursement amount for the second quarter is $140,313.66, and the Live Well program's total reimbursement amount is $42,382.59. That concludes this report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the report. Second.
Can I get a vote? Thank you.
We'll go in the same order. Dana, your vote.
Aye.
Dana votes aye. Tony, your vote.
Aye.
Tony votes aye. Matt, your vote.
Aye.
Matt votes aye. Paul, your vote.
Aye.
Paul votes aye. Petty, your vote.
Aye.
Petty votes aye. Shauna, your vote.
Aye.
Shauna votes aye. Chad, your vote.
Aye.
Chad votes aye. Marlene, your vote.
Aye.
Marlene votes aye. And Lisa, your vote.
Aye.
It's unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 5, committee report 2408, update on medical plans request for proposal consideration.
Sure. So I'll start this report. This is a report back from the ad hoc committee. The JLMBC may remember that the ad hoc committee for medical plans was created a little while ago in response to the rising cost of healthcare. So the committee decided to be able to get an ad hoc group to look into what the city can do or what the JLMBC might be able to do, be able to address the rising cost of healthcare that we've seen year after year from our health plan providers. They took action recently, brought back a report to the committee to extend a survey to better understand what employees feel about their healthcare, what they're experiencing with their healthcare, and what kind of changes we might consider, the committee might consider, if there was going to be a request proposal submitted. That survey went out to all 26,000 members. We had a good number of responses or so. We had about 1,400 responses. The results are summarized in section B of the report. Sorry, 1,200 responses, give or take. Out of the responses in general, and we can go in more detail into them, the committee has seen, or the subcommittee, excuse me, has seen that there's really a need for more discussion and a need for more conversation leading up to a decision on what to ask for. So the responses that were received, well, first, there was a good representation of all employees, even though it was only 1,224 employees that took the survey. But there was a good representation of employees throughout the demographic groups, through representation of employees enrolled into different healthcare plans, having covered different dependents that were taking the survey, and covering different departments as well as labor unions. In the actual request for information regarding their health plans, we saw a good number of employees represent the actual plans that we have provided, kind of in correlation with what we have for Kaiser and Anthem membership. Moving on down to actual medical plan use, we saw employees that were respondent of our PPO plan and the specific questions that we had for the PPO plan. We had some targeted questions that they're asking. We had members responding to those and giving us a lot of information back. We saw a good number of members identify that they're satisfied with their plan, but then also a percentage of members that said they weren't. So 77% of members said that they were satisfied with their overall plan. 70% of respondents said they were satisfied with their customer service they're receiving from their plan. 68 respondents said they were satisfied with the plan benefits themselves, but only 66% said that they were educated about their benefits. So there's still a good percentage between 25 and 30 or almost 40% of members who aren't fully satisfied and are open to change. The end result that the committee was looking at is there needs to still be looking into what that change is. When in the survey, and sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, in the survey, there was an ask specifically towards an HDHP. If members were interested in HDHP, a high deductible health plan, which would enable them to get a health savings account, which is different from the flexible spending account that we provide them now. The health savings account would actually have the city provide money or could provide money into that account for the employee, so the employee wouldn't contribute and they could use that money. We saw respondents were somewhat interested, but not fully excited about it. They wanted to know more information. They wanted to know more. And so the committee really feels that it needs to know more. So in short, the request from the committee is, the subcommittee, excuse me, is to extend this conversation or extend this research for an additional year so they can dive deeper into this concept and see where to move the mark. To do that, we would need to extend the current contracts with Anthem and Kaiser for 1 year to be able to have the subcommittee continue its findings. So the recommendation of the report is to continue the existence of the subcommittee for an additional 12 months for considering any changes that might happen to the structure of the plan or to what we're asking for a plan, adding a new plan, any changes of it for effective plan year 2026. And then to extend contracts or to start discussions with Anthem and Kaiser for contract extensions for plan year 2025. In section E of this report, it outlines the next steps that we would need to take to be able to accomplish that goal if the larger JLMBC agrees to the concept. So if the agreement to move forward as recommended were to proceed, during the months of now through May, we would discuss with Anthem and Kaiser what that contract renewal was going to look like, what kind of rates they would be able to provide to us, what the conditions are to be able to continue those services as they were bidded on the RFP. They can't change too much from what the RFP response was. And then we would need to come to an approval of that extension in line with adoption of the plan year 2025 when we bring it to JLMBC in by June. So we would be discussing, or staff along with Keenan would be discussing this contract renewal or extension with Anthem and Kaiser, bring back that proposal to JLMBC. JLMBC would ultimately then decide on extending a contract and taking an action to extend that contract, which we would then follow through and execute. That was a very short, condensed version of trying to say all the information in this large report. So I can go into further detail. We can have other people talk as well and speak to the components of the survey, to the discussions that the subcommittee had. But I just wanted to start it off with that brief synopsis to put a stance there and see where the direction wants to go.
Yeah, please.
So the recommendation is to work to extend the contracts and basically spend another year trying to figure out what we want to ask for in the next RFP. If we as JLMBC don't agree with that now, what are the next steps for you guys? I know you laid out the next steps for if we say yes. What are the next steps if we say no?
So the authority that we had when we executed the RFP is for 5 years of a total contract. So the JLMBC could decide to just continue the contract extension for that period of time, or to make an action to discuss extending that for that period of time, and even just completely disband the subcommittee or end it. The subcommittee had a lot of tasks. The RFP was one of them.
And so just to kind of piggyback on what Matt was saying, so what we're trying to survey employees to find out what they like and don't like so that we will be better informed when we go out to bid, making sure we get kind of what they're looking for, what they want, what they like.
Essentially, yes, it was to gauge the attitude of the employee, right? There's a lot of options that the JLMBC could go with, that personnel department could go with, and asking for medical plans. And so we're trying to narrow those options down to be able to create better structure of what that RFP might look like. It was still ultimately the subcommittee's decision or objective to determine whether an RFP is reasonable or something obtainable that we should be actually going to, or canceling that whole process, not even doing an RFP and sticking with the contract extension. This is still part of that. There's not a decision on that arena. This is still discussing and evaluating whether or not an RFP is feasible on narrowing down all the large avenues. What the survey definitely shows is that people like the options that they have. It's considering, is there a different option they could go to? What kind of changes within the option? Or where are they not satisfied? What is the problem that they're looking for to make them better happy with their plans?
Yeah. Just for the personnel department, we get lots of phone calls. Obviously, people call all around the department, right, before they sort of find exactly where they want to be. And client services definitely engages a lot of employees about this kind of thing. And one of the things that we find is that the dissatisfaction comes in like a change in the employee's situation. For example, an employee who is an employee only, who has a PPO and has, enjoyed that, benefit, and then they get married and now it's them and their spouse, and now things change in terms of the cost and so forth. And then they may, oh, well then, so that I can keep my costs down, I'm going to change plans. And then you come and ask me how happy I am with my plan, right? So, there's so many different sort of reasons that people can feel a certain way that are not necessarily anything that we could or would do anything about. It's the truth, right? That I am less pleased with my HMO, employee spouse than I was with my PPO employee only, like, right? So that's like the bottom line. But not that I want to, you get what I mean? So, I mean, some of it would be interesting to see. I don't think I took the survey and I'm not saying you didn't send it to me because I'm sure you did. And I'm sure I was going to do it. But I would like to maybe take a look at the questions just to kind of wrap my head around the path that we take employees down when we're gathering this information, because sometimes there's like ancillary information that's super important, but we didn't ask that. And then it would put everything into perspective, so anyway, so that's just my comment. Do we have, yes, please, Lisa.
If the employee didn't get all the way to the end of the survey, was it still part of this report, or did you have to complete the survey? Did you have to get all the way to the last question for it to?
No, the answers, and Kenny can attest to this, the answers were collected for what they answered.
Okay.
If they didn't get all the way through responses that they did submit, we'll read.
And it did let you submit even if you weren't done. I'm trying to, I know I took it online and I'm just trying to remember if the submit button was always there.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's at the end, but it reports the responses as they come in. And then you can submit at the final, that is, just wrap up and you're done kind of message, but it does record throughout. And it gives you an abandonment rate. So we skip some questions, they can do that as well. So we have that as much.
And did people skip the question about what would you give up?
Towards the back, we can take a look at
Okay.
that specific question.
Because I just, some of my colleagues got suspicious when it got to the point where the question was, would you be willing to go with a higher deductible or give up the whatever? And they were like, what am I doing here? So that's it. I don't really have a question, I guess.
Yeah, it does record the 66. Yeah,
Bless you.
a question where would they accept a small increase in the calendar year deductible? Another 66, we have a question about the coping and from HMO. So it does have those metrics in the back. It's in kind of the appendix. Would you be interested in seeing alternative plan option 89? So that.
Thank you.
I have a question. For clarification, if we agree to this, the subcommittee will continue their work. I mean, how are the members gonna be involved? Are you saying more surveys are gonna go out to them? Because I think I did read the survey and I did encourage my members to take it, despite the fact that they were concerned about those questions. But really, I mean, aside from this high deductible health plan, are you gonna be asking the members what changes they want to see in benefits? Getting suggestions from them, or are we gonna just be submitting?
I think it's still a conversation to have. One thing that was talked about is going out to RFI, asking more of the vendors what these products look like and how we can fit it into what we've heard already. But there's still a lot of conversation. And
But is that the only product you're looking at?
no, it wasn't the only product we're looking at, but it is the most I guess effective one that we saw, and at least that was discussed when we were looking at this research and looking at the information provided by our consultants that would meet the needs of what we see members are doing that is trending in other employers our size, and it's also a potential cost saver for the city when we're looking at premiums.
I think something that really stuck out to me when we were reviewing the data that came back from the surveys was a big gap in understanding of the current plan benefits. And so as you noticed in the results, it was about 66% felt that they, really understood their plan benefits. So I think there's a lot of room there to educate the membership on what their benefits are. So it's a bit difficult to determine, I think, at this point, what changes or additional benefits or tweaks to the system that we could make when people don't necessarily understand what the current environment is. So I think that was a big factor for me when we were reviewing this was if there's such a gap here, how are we determining what they would be willing to change or what differences they would be interested in when they don't necessarily know what the current is, right? So that was a big piece of it for me in saying, well, maybe we should, put this off and look at it a little bit more in depth. Maybe there's some room to do some education in the interim so that people do understand their benefits. And then I think we have a better sense of what people like and don't like. I mean, if they don't know what it is, how can they say what they like or don't like? So that was my perspective when we were reviewing it.
Which is normal when it comes to insurance. You
Yeah.
really don't realize what you have until you need it. It's like you have a car accident. You don't realize it was in your insurance
Mhm.
until all of a sudden like, well, that's not covered. And it still comes down to its cost. And it's the nature of the industry we're in. It's going up, and if they're gonna get what they want, eventually it's gonna pay. It's going up. And is there an option there to get them what they want at a less price? And that's the challenge. So and then convincing them that it's gonna fit their needs, because it's like any doctor. Most of us have gone to our dentist for 20, 25 years. We want to change it. Not at all. And sometimes in order to save money, changes have to be made when it comes to this type of industry, whatever, people don't want to change. And the issue is, back to committee, here's the options, how we're going to either outreach or convince our members or employees, this is the same service or better service, and we're going to save money. Just like when you go to an emergency room, they don't realize it's $100 they get there. Then all of a sudden you get costs. Why is it $100? Where you could have gone to urgent care, it'd have been $15.
I know that it, for some, it may feel like we're delaying or we're punting or taking maybe more time than we need, but every year I look at the enrollment book, even though I'm not making changes, and I'm amazed at how better it gets, because I look at like the 23 and I was like, can't do any better than this. I understand it. But then in 24, it's like, wow, there are changes that are made. Now I understand even more. I can only imagine how employee benefits feels about the daunting task of explaining it even more simply than how it's been explained. But that's where the time is it will really come in handy is figuring out how to explain it even better, make it even easier for people to digest, which is critical in this case. You want people to really understand what they're getting into and the voice that they're using to guide the future of their benefits.
Do we have any further questions or discussion on the matter? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
A second.
Then
So
we,
there are two recommendations. So for the record,
There-
you're moving
Just for both.
for both.
great.
Okay.
And then we'll go in the same order of the agenda. So Dana, your vote.
Aye.
Dana votes aye. Tony, your vote.
Aye.
Tony votes aye. Matt, your vote.
Aye.
Matt votes aye. Paul, your vote.
Aye.
Paul votes aye. Petty, your vote.
Aye.
Petty votes aye. Shauna, your vote.
Aye.
Shauna votes aye. Marlene, your vote.
Aye.
Marlene votes aye. Chad, your vote.
Aye.
Chad votes aye. And Lisa, your vote.
Aye.
Lisa votes aye. It's unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 6, committee report 24-09, HIPAA compliance officer.
Good morning, JLMBC members. This is Chung with Employee Benefits, and I will be presenting the Health Insurance Portability and Accounting Act, or HIPAA Compliance Officer report today. So For this report, staff is recommending that the JLMBC approve the necessary funding for the employee benefits from the Employee Benefits Trust Fund to add a senior benefits analyst one position as a regular position authority to serve as the LOL program's HIPAA compliance officer. Now, this is a continuation of an ongoing discussion about the possible self-insured model for the dental and vision insurance benefits. Last July, a report was presented to the JLMBC regarding the HIPAA compliance mandates that would be applicable should the LOL program move to a self-insurance model. This move would necessitate changes to the Employee Benefits Division's existing office layout, as well as a new position authority to serve as the HIPAA compliance officer. Staff was asked to report back on the cost, which was done at the November meeting last year. For its 2024-25 budget request, the Personnel Department did include a new position authority request for a senior benefits analyst, one position to serve as the HIPAA compliance officer. It served as the HIPAA compliance officer role. This position was identified as general funded, but there is a possible option to have this position funded through the Employee Benefits Trust Fund, pending approval by the JLMBC. In mid-January, the CAO released a report recommending that a hiring freeze be implemented for the remainder of the fiscal year and to eliminate all non-critical vacant positions, but allow a process to unfreeze certain hiring requests. In light of this, staff has determined that the best action available would be to identify the position as special funded, as there is a history of precedence for this. Should this recommendation be approved, staff will include this action in its ongoing budget discussion. Should this action not be approved, staff plans to continue including this position request within the budget proposal as is. And that concludes this report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is this necessary only for implementing a self-funded plan? Like, is this something that needs to happen regardless of that or because of that?
Well, I'll take that one. So I would say we are still very low staffed. So there is it's been a little bit of a struggle to get work done because of our staffing and any objectives. So if in a world where nothing will change, if our benefit structure stayed the same and no additional tasks come our way, then probably we would be fine, and including not having a self-funded option. But this is primarily to address the ability to go self-funded, as well as anything else that might come our way. That's going to answer your question.
Okay. Yeah, and it might be just a procedural thing about how the city administration functions. So please enlighten me. But it seems like I'm wondering if it's cart before the horse a bit, where we haven't approved doing a self-funded plan at this point. So is this something that we need to do, or is this is this a placeholder? Or I just kind of want to understand that, because I don't want us to say, yes, let's spend this money, and then we don't do the self-funded plan, and then what are we doing? So that's my concern.
It really should be, we should really have it, period. Just for the compliance aspect of making sure that our data is safe and everything else, even though we don't have a self-funded, just to say that out loud. But it would not be cart before the horse. We would need to have this position and authority. We'd have to have those positions there before we start that function. So we would need to be compliant before we start the process of being a self-funded plan. It's really a timing issue of which one could happen. It doesn't need to necessarily be years before, but it would need to have the HIPAA compliance officer in place, trained, making sure that our office is in compliance, that all the procedures are there, we know what they're doing before we execute that contract and start those services.
Okay. So even if we didn't do a self-funded plan, this would still be a valuable position to have.
100% agree.
That's what I wanted to understand. Thank you.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What?
I don't know who.
I'm a little confused. I don't, I mean, I'm looking at the flow chart and it looks like the new position, on according to the flow chart, will be taking care of HIPAA compliance.
Correct.
How does that tie into a self-funded plan? I don't see how the
Oh.
two things are related.
Okay, yeah, so we talked about it a while ago, but I'm sure it was a while ago. So for us to be able to have a self-funded plan, it means all the risk from the insurance itself gets moved over to us.
I'm familiar with.
We're still gonna,
plans.
okay, yeah, so we're still gonna have the carriers do that administration, but we're now gonna have the risk and need to be able to assure that we have the conditions in place that we're
Not
able
violating
to
HIPAA.
manage claims, be
Okay.
able to respond to claims if we need to, and everything else that's involved with us being able to approve payments, and all that other actions if we need to have it. If we need to do that action, right? If that's, and Keenan can speak better to that than I can, on the details, but in theory, the carrier is going to be doing the work, but there's situations the carrier is not going to be able to approve 100%. There's going to be disputes between the provider and the employee that we're going to have to make a call on. There's going to be claims that we're going to have to actually review on chance. There's going to be our need to manage money. We have to manage a trust fund where we're putting the money in, and how much we're paying the carrier to do their job. That's where the HIPAA compliance piece comes from.
Thank you.
Marlene?
Oh, I kind of had the same question and concern that Shauna had as far as if we don't move that way, because we haven't gone that way yet, and then what does this person do? But I understand that, my question is also for administrative. Does it have to be tied to like the self-funded option to come out of the trust fund? Is that why, or are we just trying to avoid what I thought was not a freeze, but was a non-critical limited hiring? I keep hearing.
I'm on 12. I'm not, that's the other side of the house.
Did you mean
No.
the
No, ma'am.
non-critical limited hiring?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
We call it new managed hiring in our group.
So does it have to be tied to the trust too? I mean, is that the only way, do you understand what I'm asking?
I do.
Like, you know, how
Yeah.
you can take it from the trust fund because you're gonna do this, but any other Chung's position, because he's
Yeah.
cannot come from the trust fund? Does that? have-
You mean, can they not do work associated outside of what you're allocating it for?
Right, what determines what can come from the trust fund and what has to come from the general fund? Anything?
Well, to answer it a different way, it can only do work for LA Well if it's funded by the trust fund.
Okay, because I see all the trust fund positions are under the LA well. Okay,
Correct. So those,
so why?
I know it's really, really tiny as far as that.
Versus what? I mean, isn't everybody in benefits considered LA well? I
No.
mean, you're like your commute.
So under this org chart, the live well on the left-hand side is 100% special funded because when we adopted the live well program, the wellness program, that was a condition for us to take those positions that would be paid for by those wellness funds. On the right-hand side, the positions under LA Well that are funded by the trust fund are positions that the JLMBC has added over multiple years. One of them to do ACA, one of them to do disability or COBRA, I think it was. I'm forgetting exactly, but over a span of like 10 years or so, they added those 4 positions to be able to perform work. But the department still holds everything. So the positions that are not highlighted in orange are still serving the LOL program, but they're not funded by the trust fund.
I got it. All right. Thank you.
I have a couple questions. They're sort of together. First of all, are there any current vacancies in the senior benefits analyst class? And secondly, is there an eligibility list?
So in my division or in employee benefit division, we do not have any vacancies. We just filled our last vacancy, which we're going to talk about next meeting because it just happened. But we do not have any vacancies. From my understanding, there is a list.
That means there was a CJO on Friday. Thank you.
Yeah, I was.
Thank
I
you.
was gonna ask.
That's what that means.
Don't
Yes.
Did they
don't
come
tell.
from the clerk?
Yeah.
No, not-
But again, see, I'm not that guy.
I'm just saying.
That's not, I'm a lover. Yeah. You know, not a fighter.
The current list, I believe, expires in 5 or 6 months. So by budget approval, there will not be a list.
Okay, and just for clarity, as Chung mentioned, we did include this in our budget request as a general funded, position. But sort of based on the climate, I think that, to the degree that it's not general funded, there may be, more of a possibility that we could actually get it.
So just to clarify, specifically what's being asked of us right now is our approval for you guys to go to the mayor's office and say, the Employee Benefits Trust Fund can pay for this.
Correct.
That's all and we
Correct.
talked about the position and whether we'll go self-funded or definitely a future conversation. But the question for right now is, are we willing to pay for this position should it be added and filled at a theoretical future date? Will we be willing to pay for it out of the trust fund? And
Correct.
can the trust fund cover the cost?
Well said, sir. Yes.
So can the trust fund cover it?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
the trust fund can cover it. The trust fund is rather healthy.
The recommendation is that we do. Yes.
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 Yeah.
Question. This is gonna, I'm sorry, this is gonna sound like, probably silly, but is there a significance to the words you chose to describe this? In other words, why doesn't it say, instead of saying request special funded, why doesn't it say request benefit trust funded like the other orange box? Is there any significance that I don't understand to that?
No,
Okay,
it was just,
all right, it doesn't mean something
We put
totally
together.
different outside of the other orange boxes that we see here.
yeah, no significance at all.
You just want to make sure they know it's.
That's not the way my
Yeah.
mind works. It's
Right.
petty or silly, but.
Yeah. When I go before the mayor, I will use the term special funded for sure.
Okay.
It's more accessible than.
Okay.
Keywords, yeah.
Understood.
And two, a quick question, if we did self-fund or whatever, what's the potential savings to the city?
Oh, we had talked about that before, and I can't remember the number. Keenan, can you read?
And there's a report on it.
Right.
But I believe it's about 700,000 a year on the dental,
Mhm.
and about another 300,000 on the vision.
So about $1 million.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, where does the $1 million savings come from?
so currently, under a fully insured basis,
Okay, this is I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
this is the difference between being self-funded as opposed to be fully insured. Okay, not the position. Now, I understood Tony's question to be different, but you're talking about just, yeah, I misunderstood the question. Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I didn't
I
want.
think
you
it's just more information to support that position.
and this was done based off about a 5-year look back. Expenses versus the revenue that they paid on a. Yeah.
Borden Dartmouth Keenan. We did a survey, we did a look back on plan expenditures on the dental plan and on the vision plan versus the fully insured premium that you paid. And every year in a fully insured environment, there's a component called margin. And that margin is there in case claims are higher than anticipated, which is fiscally sound, and it's what you do. That money stays with the carrier. By self-funding, we're still going to experience the same claim volume. People are still going to go to the dentist the same way and so forth. But there's no magical discount that's applied to the claims. They're the same. What we're saying is hold the margin within the city, and then over time, it will grow. And we anticipate that to grow at about $1 million a year between dental and vision combined. And I think that's where kind of some of the justification of a position comes as well too.
I want to get us fully sidetracked, but I have one more follow-up question, and it's a little bit off topic, but is Has there been any consideration about doing the same thing for RX?
That becomes a lot more tricky. We haven't done any studies or anything like that, but because you have multiple HMOs and so forth, we'd be looking at most likely converting to a complete different model. Still HMO-like benefits, but it would be called, it'd be covered under what's called an EPO, exclusive provider organization. So capitation fees go away. There's a lot of other things on the medical side, and carriers are very reluctant to just
Well, I know
carve
that.
out
Because they
the
don't,
prescription
want
drug.
to make some money. All right, well, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we approve the recommendation at this point.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll go in the same order on the agenda. So Dana, your vote.
Aye.
Dana votes aye. Tony, your vote.
Aye.
Tony votes aye. Matt, your vote.
Aye.
Matt votes aye. Paul, your vote.
Aye.
Paul votes aye. Petty, your vote.
Aye.
Petty votes aye. Shauna, your vote.
Aye.
Shauna votes aye. Marlene, your vote.
Aye.
Marlene votes aye. Chad, your vote.
Aye.
Chad votes aye. And Lisa, your vote.
Aye.
Lisa votes aye. It's unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you so much. So that is the end of our items for action. We're moving on to our informational items, beginning with item number 7, our benefits provider presentation.
Morning, honorable committee members. My name is Megan Gardner with Keenan, and I'm going to be introducing you to the benefit service provider presentation for Optum, and I'm joined today by Miriam Miller, Senior Client Services Manager from Optum. She's going to be doing a deep dive into plan utilization and how the plan was running for the 2023 calendar year. Looking back, Optum recently just went through an RFP process and it's been retained as the EAP provider just this last year. But they have been in place since 2019 as the EFAP provider. They replaced Managed Health Network, MHN. Their services include core and support plus services, providing therapy and counseling for employees and their family members, up to 5 free sessions. And then it also includes work-life services, employee training, critical incident response hours, and the like within the program. Utilization, this is on page, what looks like the page numbers are cut off on my
3.
page 3. Sorry, I was looking at the screen. Page 3, there's a little bit of utilization for the past 3 years that you can see. The program has remained fairly steady with respect to the members who are using the services. And the top 5 presenting issues are legal, anxiety and worry, marital and primary relationship issues, depression, and family issues. Sorry, mine is cut off again. But that's just a high level summary. Miriam is going to take over now and do a deep dive. Miriam?
Hi, thank you for the introduction. As Megan mentioned, I am the Senior Client Services Manager at Optum, and I'm one of the city's direct contacts. So here is the agenda for today. I'm going to walk through all of the statistics related to each component of the program over the last 3 years. So through Optum, the city has access to Support Plus with the Employee and Family Assistance Program. So the support component of the benefit allows your employees to receive support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You also have access to 5 counseling sessions, legal services, financial coaching, and digital tools. And then the additional plus helps employees with their to-do list. I like to think of that as like a concierge service that allows additional help with things that people typically do like on the side of their desk. And so they don't have to do that anymore, and they can utilize Optum for things related to finding childcare, dog groomers, and other services. And we're going to look at both components in more detail throughout the presentation. So through the EFAP program, employees and household members. So I like to slow down on this piece because the EFAP program is available not only to the employees, but to their partners, anyone who lives in the house. And so even if a student is away at college, they can still utilize the program. And it's 5 sessions per topic, per person, per year. Visits can be in person or virtual. And in addition to Optum's network, we have a contract with Talkspace, which is a digital platform, and it allows members to access therapy virtually. And so through our, Oh, okay. I thought I heard a question. Sorry. Through a training perspective, we have a catalog of trainings that are available for both in person and virtually. And we also have critical incidents responses that can be utilized whenever there are unexpected incidences, such as natural disasters, if there was a sudden passing of a coworker, anything that might affect your employees' morale. Optum has a dedicated CIRS team that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and those services can be provided in person or virtually as well. And lastly, we have our Live and Work Well website where members can go to get the support and the materials, and they can also do a provider search through Live and Work Well. Okay, I'm ready for the next one. And so Talkspace is the digital platform that I previously mentioned, and a lot of your employees are probably already familiar with Talkspace, and this is a completely digital platform, but it allows members to have a wider network of providers, and sessions are through video and through chat. And another digital platform that we have is the self-care app. The self-care app is an app that members can use to meet their immediate needs, and it has tools for meditation, anxiety management, and it's a tool that can be used to help a member where they're at. Typically, you can use the self-care app maybe before you start counseling, just to see if it's something that you can manage on your own, or you can use it with your therapy services as well. And so something that I'm really excited about is an upcoming enhancement to the Live and Work Well website. So this is just sort of a sneak peek of what the new visuals will look like. The update will go live this month on February the 16th, and it's going to include a more streamlined layout, user-friendly personalization, new prompts, and many other features. And so in addition to the Live and Work Well website, your employees have access to optumwellbeing.com. Optum Wellbeing provides resources for employees and managers. And so every month there is a monthly toolkit that's created, and I typically email that out to my contacts within the city. And the toolkits include live training information, podcasts, videos, and other activities. There's also a critical support center that provides resources for challenging situations, and an organization and employer resource that's tailored for HR managers. And this is just a quick look at what February's toolkit looks like. And so February, we're focusing on food and mental health. And so within this month, we'll have live trainings. There'll be articles and different activities that are available to your members. And one of my favorite features of the toolkits is that the previous month's toolkit and resources are still available. So if you were looking for something relating to stress or just another topic that doesn't relate to this month's theme, you could look through the previous month's toolkits, and I'm pretty certain that we'll have something in there for you. And so now we'll go and look at the engagement over the last 2 years. Okay. So which one is this? Gender. So we are consistently seeing more female engagement than males. And something that I want to point out is that the city's male engagement is actually higher than Optum's book of business for the last 3 years. We also see a consistent trend of more employees engaged when compared to their spouses or dependents. And from an age perspective, we're seeing really good engagement between the ages of 35 and 65. And so you can see that year over year since 2021, we have continued to see engagement go up. And in 2023, we were at 34.3%. And from 2022 to 2023, the top presenting issues have been legal, anxiety, and marital relationship support. So we're continuing to see a lot of stickiness in members continuing to use virtual visits, with employees utilizing virtual visits at about 65% when compared to 33% for face-to-face in 2023. What this tells us is that they're really seeing the ease and convenience with using those virtual visits. And another compelling component is that we are seeing really high utilization of 5 sessions. So as you can see from the chart, your members are consistently increasing the utilization of all 5 visits, with an increase from 42% in 2022 to 44.9% in 2023. The high utilization of the 5 visits shows that your members not only know about the program, but they're taking advantage of it, which is really good. So in regard to the work-life services, this is what I refer to as the concierge-based services. In 2023, the top areas were adult elder care, financial assistance, child and parent care, and convenience services, which include things like the child care and pet services. Management consultations are a really important part of the EFAP program. It's where we are able to support managers with those challenging situations. And so utilization has primarily been the same year over year, but this also might be an area of focus from an educational perspective, so that in 2024, more managers can take advantage of the support that we can give them. Some of the areas that we've supported the managers in are legal, anxiety, and marital relationships, which ties back to the focus areas of your employees as well. The city has continued to take advantage of our training and CIRS support services, where we saw an overall increase of about from 11.2% to 19.4%. So that just highlights the value of this service to your employees, as we saw participants nearly double in 2023. Some of the primary topics are how to build customer satisfaction, how to build workplace motivation, and how to use conflict as an employee opportunity. For critical incidents, we primarily had grief and workplace trauma as top topics of support, which was consistent with what we saw from 2022. And this is just our contact information for anyone who wanted to call in and speak with someone. They would call the EFAP line, which is 1-800-213-5813, or they can do more of a self-service on the liveandworkwell.com website. And if they haven't created an account, you would use the access code City of LA. And this is my contact information. I'm the client services manager, as well as the client executive, Kim Aquino. And this is just a glance at the yearly topical calendar. And so, as I mentioned, this month we're focusing on our food and health. And so each month has a theme, and the monthly toolkits correlate with the month's theme. And that's all that I have for you today. Do I have any questions?
I have a couple of questions. On the work-life services, there was a major drop-off in the elder care after 2021. What was, and then for subsequent years, what was behind that?
I can't say. I can look into that and come back, follow up with Paul with it. coming out of COVID, a lot of trends have changed. So if I were to guess, maybe people's transitioning out of COVID back outside of the homes, a lot of the there were a lot of different changes. But I can definitely take that back to see if we have any more insight into what caused the shift.
Okay, thank you. And then on the counseling services, is that only virtual? Is there an in-person option for that, or is it strictly virtual?
No, for the counseling sessions, the 5 sessions through the EFAP program, we have providers that offer virtual and in person. The only one that is only virtual is the Talkspace, which is a different component.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Mhm.
On page 18, the management consultations and referrals. I don't see
Mhm.
I don't see the footnotes for the little charts where you have the one on that. But my question is on the referral services. Could you talk about that a little? That's not of the overall usage. Is that a different number, or is that the overall?
Can
Management
is
services.
uh-huh. What do the management referral service refer to?
Yes.
When a manager employee referrals, and
So
so it,
they refer the employee to the program.
mhm.
Is that mandatory current 79% of the total 34% usage or whatever it was reported in
The 79% of the referrals are mandatory.
so 79% of the employees who use the service were mandatory?
For the referral.
So, Miriam, the counts of the referrals are the numbers at the end of the columns, correct?
Correct.
What
So
was
you
that?
can see it's broken down to the quarterly. So you can see in Q1 there were 3 for 23 total
I
referrals, and so it has the numbers. And I'm sorry,
got it. Okay.
there's a lot
That
of
was
different
my question. I
components.
can't see those numbers.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, so for Q1 in 2023, there were 3 total referrals, and it
Okay.
compares to 2022 and 2021. So yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I have a question on the page 19, the critical incident response and training topics. On the left column where it says that there's 19.4%, is that 19.4% of the 4+% total employees that avail themselves to EFAP? Or what is that 19.4% of that use the training?
It's utilization, so it's a 19.4% utilization, which is an increase from the prior quarter, which was 11.2%.
Of all employees in the city or all employees that avail themselves to EFAP?
That are using the CIRS's services.
Was that 46?
4458.
So that's not by training, or that's not by employee, right, Marion? It's not an employee
No,
count.
it's not by employee. It's about more employees are attending the trainings. And so it's not the entire, all of your employees, but based on who's utilizing the CIRS trainings and attending them, those are the numbers that are used. So
Okay.
you can see that currently, well, in 2023, it was 4,448 total participants, and then it's compared to the prior quarter.
Okay. And then my final question about the app, the app is called Able To?
So yeah, it's called self-care.
And then-
It's self-care by Able To.
And employees are notified of that through the newsletter that comes out monthly that has all the bubbles on it, the circles on it.
Is that the toolkit or is that the city
I'm
on
just
Living
trying
Work?
I'm trying to get to the bottom of how do employees find out about that Able To app?
Oh, okay. On the Living Work Well website. And so that's where you would go to manage to see the overall and access all of the EFAP benefits. And so if you go to the Living Work Well website, it'll have the information for the Self-Care by Able To app, the Talkspace app, the information on the Plus services. And they can go in before creating an account by using the access code City of LA, And we encourage them to create just to sign in and register, and that way they can have their own personal account.
And so how are employees notified to even start that process to do that? How do they know that exists?
That's what we're working on. We have a strategic marketing plan. So I work with people in the Live and Work Well department. So we meet monthly. I send out the monthly toolkit. And with this year, we're developing a strategic marketing plan to try to figure out ways to increase engagement and awareness. And so some of the things that we're going to do are send out regular emails that sort of highlight the program. I'm available to do virtual trainings or employee orientations, and we have pre-recorded trainings that are available. So we're working with the city to try to increase awareness. But as you see, there is pretty good awareness within the population. But you know, we can always improve the numbers.
We're also there's monthly wellness newsletters that go out from our wellness team.
Is that the one
They
with the bubbles on it, the big circles? Yeah. Where you make
We have a
bunch-
couple that have bubbles, but I think that's the one. Yeah, yeah. I think
Bubbles are the right thing.
but yes, the monthly wellness newsletters that go out, which hopefully people are paying attention to, do reference these services.
Thanks.
And the topics.
Are there any additional questions? Conversation? Okay. Well, thank you so much. It's always nice to see these kinds of statistics to kind of give us an idea of, kind of who's using what. And what they are most sort of interested in. So we appreciate the time that you took to come and tell us about this usage. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, moving on to item number 8, a committee report 2410, which is an update on Live Well program transition.
Good morning. My name is Brianna Collins with the Employee Benefits Division. I will be providing a brief overview of the recent developments in our Live Well program and the transition to Virgin Pulse as our new third-party administrator. Section A begins with the background and timeline. In summary, last year, the JLMBC approved the selection of Virgin Pulse as the wellness plan provider for a 3-year contract starting on April 1st of this year. Negotiations with Virgin Pulse are underway, and we anticipate the go-live date to be June 4th. This will create a 2-month gap in which employees will not have access to an online wellness platform due to the expiration of the current contract with Limeade, but we see this as an opportunity to rebrand and enhance our services. Throughout this gap, the Live Well program will continue supporting employees with their own Live Well URL, our monthly newsletter, live fitness and cooking classes, and other services are currently being considered with our health carriers. This graph contains a transition timeline, which includes the drafting of the initial contract on December with the deadline to sign at the end of March of this year. Implementation will begin in February with the aim to hard launch in June of this year. Moving on to section B. This section is regarding branding and our launch campaign. In terms of branding, there's consideration to consolidate under the LA Well brand, which is a civilian benefit program, transitioning away from Live Well to ease confusion among employees. This is to simplify our communication efforts and have a single online website. The Live Well team is still considering their options and will provide an update at a subsequent JLMBC meeting. Moving on to part C, which are the current and previous Live Well activities. Last year, we had successful challenges like the STEP Team Challenge, which had over 500 participants, the May Wellness Bingo Challenge, in which employees had to complete various activities relating to their mental and physical well-being. We also promoted a webinar in August on the connection between food and mood. And in November, the virtual turkey trot, where we challenged employees to complete a half marathon over the course of 2 weeks instead of the usual 5K. As we move into 2024, employees are currently participating in our most popular challenge, the Team Step Challenge, where they have the goal to complete 1 million steps as a team. We are continuing to offer live cooking demonstrations, live Zoom classes, and a quarterly level achievement drawing to continue engagement. This does conclude the end of my report, but I'm open to any questions, if any.
Are there any questions? Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you so much for that report.
Thank you.
Okay, committee members, we are moving on to item number 9, Committee Report 2411, Human Resources and Payroll Project Update.
I'll take this one. This is our routine update. We're going to bring an update to you each month leading up to launch. I'm sure you are all well aware of everything that's going on with HRP and how the process is going for us. There has not been a whole lot of movement. We had reported last time that the launch got changed and that we are going to be launching in June, and the extension in launching in June allowed us to be able to have more time to test, and we'd be able to do more of the testing that we didn't have in the prior timeline of launching in December. On page 3, if I can get to that, actually it's further than page 3. But these are our objectives, our main objectives. There's lots of things that we're testing, but these are our main objectives on page 4 of what we need to test, which is our inbound, outbound files and everything that the system does with our data, what they're giving us, what we're giving back. We have, since the extension that happened in December, we have been at a standstill waiting for ITA to fix the file for us to be able to use. So the outbound file, a file comes from the city to the TELUS vendor, to our third-party record keeper. That tells the record keeper everything that happens with employees, right? They get promoted, they get terminated, they get hired, and then benefits take an action based off of what that data is. And then we respond back to the city by giving a payroll file that says, okay, great, now take this deduction from this person provided by this subsidy, add this imputed income. In this process of extending the period of time, we got moved into a different test environment. We had been exclusively using one test environment out of the 9 that are available. And then we were told we had to move to another one because they needed to use that test environment for something else. And in moving us to that new test environment, the file broke. They had to fix the file. It took them a month to be able to fix it. I just got one yesterday. So we're able to start again in this process, but we lost a month. We are told there is a hard stop at the end of February, so I'm not sure what we'll be able to complete in this period of time. But we're going to do whatever we can to be able to get this testing accomplished. The conversation that we've had before in the committee is the same. No matter which way we look at this, this is going to be something we're going to have to tell employees and try to use employees to tell us what is wrong when we go live. It's from what we've seen so far in the system, it is unclear on how well we're going to be able to manage, identify first and then manage corrections to things that don't work right. So that is still the path. Once we're done with this testing cycle or whatever this is going to look like over the next month, then we can talk more about what that communication plan is going to look like to make sure employees are paying attention to their paychecks, paying attention to their benefits, paying attention to when something happens with their employment and their coverage doesn't change. So they get a promotion or something else happens and it doesn't reflect on their benefits. Those are all kind of things that we're going to need to make sure employees are paying attention to and telling us when they see something that doesn't match.
So sir.
Oh, yeah.
So an employee, I know how to tell employees how to watch their paychecks, but how do I tell employees how to watch their benefits? Like, where are they looking?
So they'll be able to go to, they can. I don't think there's any current reason for an employee to go onto their benefits website, but they can go onto the keepinglawell.com website. They can log into their profile like they would do if they wanted to make an open enrollment change. They can do that anytime. And they can actually look at what their coverage is and what it is there at any time to see if a change was made.
So there's selections.
Yes, they can look at their current selections in real time in that profile. And then also another way they could look at it, if they're expecting a change or if they're expecting something to happen and they're not experiencing that on the provider side, that's also a very telling thing that they need to tell us right away.
I think this is a little confusing for some because we don't really know what the system looks like, right? Or what information. But from From what I remember in prior discussions, the problem related to benefits was the fact that the employees had to go in themselves and elect a benefit if they were new employees and they weren't being told to do that. What are the problems you're seeing now? I mean, is it what you said when they transfer, are they losing benefits?
Well, so that's a problem in current production, right? So the workday has the two phases. And so in current production, we had a problem, and we still technically kind of do have a problem of employees not completing an onboarding step process that prevents them from having their data transmit over to us so that we can give them a benefit off.
So that is still a requirement.
That is still a
That's on the
requirement,
employee,
yes.
okay.
It's still a requirement on the employee to complete onboarding if onboarding
That's not
is-
gonna
is
change?
part. As far as I know, it is still a discussion item, and there is not an option that's been identified to change the issue, which was requiring an employee to complete the step for the information to be collected. And that information we're talking about is the birthday, right? We
The
need
birthday?
Birthday.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The birthday of the employee for these age-based benefits is critical.
And that's not collected on application or when they,
Well, it is. I think the problem in the system, from what we've understood, is it is set up because this system was purchased. It's an off-the-shelf system that the city is trying to push everything into. It's not customly programmed. So the system is set up to say, you are the owner of your birthday and you need to verify that your birthday is correct. And until you do that, it doesn't exist as data to send.
so aside from that, I guess I'm just trying to figure out, and I guess the discussion will continue as time goes on, what exactly are our members looking out for?
So in phase two, the issue that we have, a long time ago, when we first started talking about this, the plan that we had in moving forward is to try to keep the data that the third-party administrator is receiving consistent, to not have any changes in that data in this transition. And then after transition's done and there's no more changes to the workday system, then we can consider changing the data. And that would mean mapping things over from coding that doesn't exist in the workday system to the old codes that are being sent on the file. We're being told that they can't do that. They can't do those codes correctly, not consistently and not comprehensively. So there's going to be codes missing. Those codes are like an employee changes from being civilian to sworn. They don't know how to tell me that. An employee changes from being terminated to having their payout and before they actually fully get done. There's a transition period that happens in the payout. So they look like they're still working or still getting a paycheck, but they're not. That can't be configured in the coding that's being sent over. In just general, and we're still touching the surface of it, I still don't know the impact completely of what can't be matched or what can't be matched accurately. But the codes that we're expecting to tell us those actions, to tell us when employees change jobs, to tell us when employees have leaves of absences and other things, are not going to be consistently provided if they're provided at all. So it's still something we're trying to wrap our heads around, and still a moving object because we still have to do all this testing.
I actually have a regular meeting with the Workday executives to just kind of talk about whatever's top of mind, for the personnel department, and I will invite you to the next one so that we can discuss this a little more, thoroughly, so that everything that can be done to ensure the smooth transition is done.
Okay.
Are you expecting a lot of calls once the system is?
I hope not, but we're going to prepare for a lot of calls. I think another challenge that is going to happen is the system, because it's an off-the-shelf system, has terminology in it that can't be changed. And so there's a benefit module, and we're not in that because our benefits aren't managed in the system. So we're trying to make sure that employees know that when they're looking at that benefit module and they don't see their healthcare, it's never going to be there, and it's not supposed to be there. They have to go someplace else for it, or we're looking for. So I think we're going to see a number of different reasons for calls, and we're just trying to prepare for anything we can.
There's a reason I'm saying that, because if we don't have the support to do that, then the employees start getting frustrated, then you really have this. Because, because if you get to them, ask their questions, get it corrected and addressed easily. But if you get like a bottleneck and
I'm very nervous about it.
But yes.
Do we have any additional questions, comments? Okay, thank you so much for that report, Paul. Okay, moving on to item number 10, Committee Report 2412, Projects and Activities Report.
Good morning, everyone. This is Chung again, and I will be going over some of the highlights from the projects and activities report. So, first up on page 1, we have an Anthem network update. In January, Anthem had advised us that its network agreement with UC Health is set to expire on March 1st. This agreement would affect certain HMO plan and certain Anthem HMO plans, but not the Vivity plan, which has a separate agreement with UC Health. Anthem has sent notices to affected city employees regarding the pending expiration of this agreement with UC Health. Negotiations between both parties have been ongoing with the goal of reaching a new agreement, but that is still in progress at the moment. Staff will continue to monitor and provide further updates on this network agreement to the JLMBC. Next up on page 2 is an open enrollment update. So for the 2023 open enrollment period, it closed on October 31st. Shortly thereafter, we had processed over 25,000 confirmation statements, and which were sent out to members. Coinciding with this, we had also had a correction window that was held from November 1st through November 17th to allow members an opportunity to review and to correct errors on their confirmation statements or to make a late change to their 2024 benefits. In December and January, staff worked with TELUS and the Controller's Office to review the benefit elections and make sure that the election files were loaded to Pacer in time for the new benefit year. And now with open enrollment over, staff is working with TELUS to review the 2023 open enrollment period to identify the things that went well, identify and fix the things that did not go well, and also to plan for and implement improvements, prior to the new 2024 open enrollment period, which will be held in October 2024. At the bottom of page 2 is a discussion item on imputed income. So imputed income, simply put, is a mechanism that is used to identify and report a conferred taxable benefit. One such conferred taxable benefit is the medical premiums that the city pays for an employee's domestic partner. This benefit is considered reportable under current state and federal tax regulations. Normally, this particular imputed income is reported on the employee's paycheck every pay period, except for the 2 non-deduction pay periods. However, for 2023, there was a system issue where the imputed income was not appropriately applied to the employee's paycheck from January to November. This was caught and fixed, and so for pay period 12 and 13 in December, the imputed income was reported to those paychecks. However, for the unreported imputed income from January through November that was not reported on the employee's paycheck, what we had to do was process a adjustment that was done in pay period 13. And this particular adjustment was selected because it would not affect the federal and state withholding taxes and thus affect the employee's take-home pay for that paycheck. However, it did affect the FICA withholding taxes for some employees depending upon their tax status. So, but that reporting was necessary so that we could report the full applicable imputed income amount on the employee's W-2. So, to ensure that this would not be repeated, staff has been conducting additional reviews to ensure that the imputed income is being applied starting with the first pay period for 2024. And we've also been taking additional reviews to ensure that the employees who should have an applicable imputed income is having it applied to their paychecks. Next on page 3, we have 2 short updates. The first is regarding ACA. So in January, we received the final civilian and sworn data files. We have been working with Benefitscape, the ACA TPA, to review and finalize the data for processing. As of last week, the review and finalization was done. Benefitscape has been processing the ACA and getting it ready to be mailed out by January 31st deadline. For the second short update, it is on the health and dependent care spending account services RFP and the life, disability, and ADA RFP. Since the last presentation in January, work has continued on both RFPs to prepare them for release. We've made changes to include the comments that was brought up during the last meeting, and they've been incorporated into the RFP documents. For the life, disability, and AD&D RFP, that is scheduled to be released on January 31st, with the health and dependent care spending account services RFP following 2 weeks later on February 14th. And lastly, this has already been touched upon, but in January, we held interviews for the vacant senior benefits analyst position within the wellness section. At the time of the report, the hiring process was still ongoing, but we will have an update on this on the next projects and activity report. And that concludes this report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and also to take any items you may want to add to the JLMBC meeting report.
So no CJO? CJO. CJ?
City doesn't do this.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. There's a whole form. Yes.
Yes. And
Yes. Okay, good. Yeah.
Thank you for the explanation on the imputed income. That is a question and a phone call that we were getting, and I was like, what are you
Yes.
talking about? Thank you for that. I think I spoke to you about it then, or somebody over there.
Mhm.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah,
Does
course.
that mean? I don't understand imputed income that well. So this is a new thing for me. Does that mean when you're adjusting those pages, does that mean their take home pay was less, or is it just like a line item? How does that?
Well, domestic partnership from a tax perspective is not treated the same
Right.
as as with a marriage. So the portion of an employee's medical insurance that the city subsidizes is considered taxable and needs to be reported.
Right.
So normally what should happen is that portion is reported on the employee's paycheck, and that's considered taxable income. So depending upon the employee's tax status, the effects can vary from employee to employee. What happened in 2023 was that imputed income was not being reported on the employee's paychecks from January through November. When it was brought to our attention, we looked into it. We had to verify the issue and then come up with a fix. So we were applied the fix for pay period 12 and 13. But then we also needed to report the amount of the imputed income that was not reported previously from January through November. So that was done as an adjustment. So for that particular adjustment, that was selected so that it wouldn't affect the employee's take home pay for pay period 13. But it did affect their FICA taxes for some employees. So that amount was could have been treated as additional taxable income, and could affect the amount of withholding on the employee's FICA taxes.
So they haven't been paying the tax on that all year, and now they're gonna have a big bill.
It depends on their tax status. If depends upon whether an employee sets their tax status as to take the full taxable amount, or whether they have it set up where no taxes are done and the employee takes care of that at the end of the year when it comes time to do their taxes. Mhm.
Okay, but it didn't, so their take home pay through the year.
Mhm.
What am I trying to say?
It was more than it should
The
have been.
deductions, yeah, it was more than it should have, right?
Correct.
And so And so then that was corrected for, so they got less in their take home pay for 12 and 13.
Yes,
And then they owe taxes
yes.
that weren't paid
Mhm.
through. Okay.
That adjustment would be reflected on their W-2. So when it comes, so when they receive their W-2, they should, discuss it with their tax advisor as to how to best treat treat it on their tax return.
It would be like a second income on tax.
Additional income, additional taxable income, depending upon whether they have already, paid taxes on it or not.
This is a little off topic, but why is a spouse covered and a domestic partner is not? And does that come from the federal level, I assume?
It's at the federal and state level.
State as well?
For California does allow an exemption, but it depends upon whether the employees apply for that exemption.
It's if they registered with the state as a business partner instead of registering with us.
So we should advise our members to register with the state as well as.
We include that information on our domestic partnership information form,
Okay.
but it is up to the employee to decide
Okay.
whether they want to file for a domestic partnership with the city or with the state.
They're polarly different kind of
Right,
outcomes, right? 'Cause
right.
the state registration is essentially like a marriage. It comes with the
Right.
property issues and everything else. I shouldn't say issues, but it comes with all those additional responsibilities. That our filing does not.
But yeah, no, I get it. And in the city, you're basically just claiming like an affidavit that I live with, yeah, this is my domestic.
Is there any tax penalty? I don't know that much about tax law, but is there a penalty associated, like when they file their taxes, if it's, a sufficiently large chunk of essentially they didn't pay it through the year?
Mhm.
Is there any penalty that's assessed because of that?
I'm not aware of any penalty, as I understand it, but I'm not
Right,
a tax
right,
expert.
right.
As I understand this, that imputed income would just be reported as taxable income on the employee's W-2. So whatever tax bracket they would fall in would depend upon what they are reporting, what they report on their tax return and what ultimately would be determined as their adjusted taxable income for the year.
Thank you. My other question is about the Anthem Network update. So how, this is kind of a nascent concern of mine coming out of the pandemic, and I understand that the healthcare industry has had some pressures. And so, I am concerned going forward, I know there's a lot of difficult contract negotiations that we're expecting for the HMOs coming up. So is this something that, are we gonna see more of this? That's part of the question, is this like the first harbinger and then we're gonna see a slew of these? And also I want to understand how large is this UC Health Medical Group? I want a sense of like how impactful that could be to the membership. How large is that group? Are there sufficient access nearby if, God forbid, this was it did expire? What's kind of the potential impact of that?
I think that for the first part of your question, that probably is a question best answered by Anthem as to the number of contract network negotiations they may have.
Try to put you on the spot.
Good morning, Kristen Nelms with Anthem Blue Cross. The first question is, are we going to see more of this to come, right? With different negotiations through medical groups and hospitals? And the reality is, just like your RFP procurement, you have a schedule of generally 3 to 5 years. So do our provider contracts with our facilities, and medical groups throughout the state. So they're generally 3 years, some vary, but depending on that contract duration is when we go up for negotiation. So earlier last year, we had a big medical group in Fresno. We just concluded one in Salinas. There was one in Santa Barbara that we just renewed. Now we've been working on the UC contract for about a year. It's one of probably our largest contracts, definitely in California and quite possibly throughout our 14 states that we serve at Anthem. It's you know, they have a lot of facilities, hospitals, they have medical groups. They're a very important provider of ours for the city, as well as a lot of our other constituents. What we're seeing in the marketplace, so that first question is, we're not going to see more volume of negotiations come up. It's just a matter of the course of those contracts that expire that we go out and renegotiate. What we are seeing, though, is just heightened pressure on the financials, right? And that's what we're seeing in the news, you know, labor pressures and shortages of staffing, and really these facilities coming out of the pandemic. So they're looking at some scenarios for much higher increases than we've seen before. We're also seeing, from our perspective, we're looking to, of course, at the end of the day, provide the most affordable healthcare for our members. A lot of our groups, unlike the city, happen to be self-funded. So it's really our fiduciary responsibility to keep those claim costs at the most reasonable and appropriate level possible. So there's that balance of trying to make sure that they have enough income to remain fiscally solvent, right? Because there's some geographies outside of suburban areas where it's almost like a provider desert, and we don't want that to happen either. So we're mindful of what they're asking for. We want to make sure that they can be successful for all of our members, for all of California. But there's also things that we're trying to add into those contracts, which are paid for performance. So looking at different quality metrics to make sure that it's not just they're billing us $100 and we're just giving a percentage of a discount, but it's really, how are they improving that member's care? How are they supporting them to make sure that they really are coming back for follow-ups and adhering to medicine and those types of things? So when possible, we're adding those elements to the contract. We're also looking to integrate their medical records within our medical records, so that if someone goes to the hospital, we can see in real time that a member went to the hospital last night. We can engage with our customer case management to get that member supported. So that's a really long answer to the first question. The second question we have, I was just texting Nicole, she's sick, so she couldn't make it today. So there's two pieces. A lot of your UC members, because we have Vivity, are in Vivity, and that contract is outside of the UC general contract. So those members are protected. There's no issue for them. Outside of that, we have 363 PPO and HMO that have utilized a UC facility in the last year. So ironically, the city, because you have that Vivity contract, is not as impacted as our other groups, which is good. I do want to remind you, for those that are impacted, well, first, let me take one step back. We're talking to them almost 24 hours a day at this point. I mean, we're getting down. We have a month to go. We don't want to lose them. They don't want to lose us. Just as much as they represent a lot to us, we represent a lot to them. So we are very committed to get it resolved. If that doesn't happen, and God forbid we go, you know, without a contract for a short period of time, I do want to remind you that everyone undergoing what we call continuity of care, so a member at any point in her pregnancy, anyone with a terminal illness, cancer, et cetera, can apply for continuity of care, which would allow that member to continue to see their provider and not be interrupted for care. So that's really significant, because any of those members that are really in need of that care will not go untreated. The second piece is we work with the DMHC to make sure if a member is attributed or has a PCP that's in UC, that they have other access to care. So not only will those that are currently undergoing chronic treatment and critical care will not be impacted, but those that aren't undergoing care would still have access to other good facilities in the area. But rest assured, this is really, really important to us, and we're doing everything we can to get something resolved as quickly as possible.
For the continuity of care application, is that through Anthem?
Yes, I can send you the form. I'll send it to all of you.
In case we get.
Yeah, I mean, I encourage anyone that's, you know, undergoing cancer treatment or any kind of care, because you see such a large system and there will be impacted members. Let's get those forms in now, right? Because the doctor has to sign off. It's not just the member submitting it, but the doctor needs to sign off. So I will make sure that everyone on the board through Paul, that's okay, can get that to all of you. And of course, we keep updating Paul and team. So as things change, which they're quickly changing, we will keep you posted.
And who determines whether or not something rises to the level of getting continuity of care?
Yeah, well, there's those, you know, any pregnancy at any.
I heard the list that you gave,
right.
But what about other things?
That goes to our department, our utilization management. So they'll look at it and say, well, could that member safely and reasonably get care at a different facility or through a different provider? Then they would make the determination.
I was thinking about mental health, because it's important to people sometimes to stick with their long time. psychiatrist or psychologist.
I could double check on that.
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry. You said, you seem to say, maybe I just misunderstood, say two different things.
Mm-hmm,
You talked about continuity of care.
mm-hmm.
And then you know, then I thought you said something about it only be extended in cases where care couldn't be provided at another facility, which seems to be opposite of continuity of care from my
Right.
perspective, right? If my wife was pregnant, she's got the person she's been seeing all through her pregnancy.
Right.
Are you saying that if you can send her another doctor in an outside facility, you'll do that? Or are you saying, hey, because of her situation, she's gonna be able to continue to see?
Yeah, I'm saying continuity of care applies for pregnancy, terminal illness, cancer, those sort of,
Those are givens.
those are givens. Yes, but I'm saying if I just have, UCLA as my medical group on my ID card and I want to make an appointment on March 3rd and a deal hasn't been made,
They may go somewhere else.
then I would definitely go somewhere else if it's just like an annual visitor. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Do we have any additional questions related to any other parts of the report? Seeing none? Okay, thank you so much.
Sorry, I have Nicole who's homesick, but behavioral health is one of the continuity of care categories. So to your question, if a member is undergoing, continuous care for mental health, they would be eligible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members, concluding items, item number 11, request for future agenda items. Are there any such requests?
Actually, have we done the IAPBP, the travel authority yet?
Thank you for reminding me. No, we haven't, and we can make sure that's on the next agenda.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any,
Can we have,
yeah.
I know I'm right now I've been multitasking and playing in the sandbox for Workday. Could we have a Workday sandbox presentation for the non-employees to see what it looks?
We can look into that and see what's appropriate to be able to give in a public forum. Sure.
Like a dummy employee?
Yeah, we can take a look. I'm assuming you're saying you want to have that before lunch, right? like rather recent ish, like maybe next month or April.
Well, before it goes live.
Okay.
Any others? Okay. All right, thank you. So our next regular meeting date is March 7th, 2024, which is a regular meeting in person with a live broadcast, as this meeting is as well, and followed by our April 4th, 2024 meeting, which is also a regular meeting in person with a live broadcast. So if there are no other questions or things to discuss, the time is 10:45 and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.